for listening to my third podcast. So, today, especially winter quarter, a lot of Santa Clara students are actually starting to think about internships and job opportunities and things they want to pursue after life at Santa Clara. So, with this podcast, I find it kind of be interesting, especially considering all the job opportunities and interviews people are going to be going through, kind of someone's advice who's already been in the professional world and gone through this. So, today we're going to be talking to Jerry McDougal, who is a former vice president of Apple Retail, and we're going to get his advice on something that he thinks that all college students should know before they enter the professional world, and kind of tips on what it's like to be a good manager. So next we'll have Jerry McDougal sharing his advice.
I'd like to share my thoughts on being a manager and being a good manager. This comes from years for me of being a manager into the executive ranks. I know a lot of folks in college think they can graduate and be an effective manager immediately. And while some can, for most, what we all need is just practical experience. And it's not experience in being a manager, it's basically just interpersonal skills and the development and learning how to deal with different situations. And those things happen only when you're immersed into a situation and you either observe someone doing it or you figure it out yourself. People that are effective managers are typically kind, trustworthy, and respected individuals. There's no real secret sauce to being a manager. I've shared with thousands of people how to be an effective manager on stage while working at Apple or in conferences on stage or presenting at different institutions and universities. And I like to follow really three schools of thought. And when I have promoted someone to the manager ranks for the first time, or someone's been promoted and they ask me for advice, I basically share three different concepts, three things that they need to focus on to make sure that they're an effective manager. The first is, you're not a manager to make friends. You're not there to make friends. You have to get people to trust you and to respect you. And you do that by being honest, by doing everything that they do. Don't think you're any better than anyone else. Jump in, get your hands dirty in the work, and show people that you don't think you're any different or any better than anyone else. You're not there to make friends. You're there to be respected and to be trusted so that you can move the team and then the job or the work forward. The second is, you've got to stop and smell the roses. And what I mean by that is, you can immerse yourself so much in your work that you actually forget how to have a good time, or you forget how to take a break. It's like sleeping. If you don't replenish your body with sleep, you're not as effective. And as a manager, if you don't occasionally take a break from it, from the stress of what you're doing, and then reap the rewards of the good work that you and your team have done, you're just going to get caught on a treadmill and it's going to be very static. So remember, when you're doing this, it's not the final result. That's the end reward. For me, the journey was the best part of my career all the way through the ranks. It was enjoying every moment in the journey along the way. And that's what I mean about stopping to smell the roses. And then the third and final thing is, and this is pretty impactful if you think about it yourself, I say, and the last thing I say is, remember, the day you're promoted to manager, that day, that evening, and every evening thereon after, you're the topic of conversation at the dinner table of everyone that works for you. And if you think about yourself, I guarantee you've talked about at your dinner table people that you've worked for. And only you can control what that person says. If the person who works for you says, wow, that person's really tough, they're really, really difficult, but I respect them and I trust them, I win. If that person says they're really mean, I don't really like them, well, you've kind of lost, and you've lost your team. Again, only you can control what those people say. And for me, and I know for others I've shared this with, it's probably the most impactful thing, because it really can relate to what you do throughout the day, how you make your decisions, and how you treat people. So the three things: one, you're not there to make friends. but you've got to get people to trust and respect you. 2, don't ever forget to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the journey along the way. And 3, to make sure that you always remember that you're the topic of conversation at the dinner table of every person that works for you from that point forward, and only you control what they say. Hope this helps. Thank you.
So I hope these tips have been useful and that the interview kind of showed you maybe some things you didn't know about how to be a good manager, and that you like the podcast. So tune in next week for my next podcast. Thank you.